What's up, everybody? My name is Tech, and for the last 15 years, I was the #1 seller of pre-owned men's clothing on eBay, and I'm doing a part 2. A couple of weeks ago, I released a 500-item BOLO video at Disney World, freestyle, off the dome. The comments filled up. Part 2, part 2. We want another one. Do it again. Well, we're here. We're going to mix up the parks, and we're going to do it again. You watch this video, you will learn, you will make money. That's a promise. That's a guarantee. The original video, the comments were also filling up with, I watched the video and now I found this. It's funny how that works, huh? So let's go to all the parks and let's check it out. We're going to go at a little bit of a slower pace this time. And before, when we were here, they had the Halloween decorations. Now they have the Christmas decorations. This is the first time we've been here for Christmas. We're going to start the BOLO Bonanza at Hollywood Studios. It's all decked out in Christmas. It looks great. Our first BOLO, Mickey standing on top of the globe. Globe skateboarding shoes, that is a BOLO. Also soap skateboarding shoes, that is a BOLO. Some more skateboarding brands, Vintage Thrasher, Vintage Independent. We have Hookups, Pau Peralta. Here's some arcade pins, and a couple of weeks ago I actually did find a Pac-Man arcade in the trash, and the top branding of it, that sells. So even if you don't want to sell the entire arcade, the parts and pieces can still make you money too. Here we are by the dumpster. Look at this. Stuff everywhere. You can pick this up, put it in your car, and you can put it on Craigslist, and you can make money on this right here. Somebody will buy this. But there are some great arcades out there. I had a friend who used to deal with them, and there are some holy grails of arcades. I'll post them here. So we talked about vintage Marvel in the last video, and you want to look for the mega prints, usually on the Fruit of the Loom tags, but they do have some present day Marvel shirts that do good. I sold some Black Panther ones last year for good money, but the Marvel shirts present day that you want to look for are the ones made by Mad Engine, and they'll have Mad Engine on the tag. All right, so here's a weird one. Vintage Rubik's Cubes. Those do okay too. Paint by numbers, some of those could do good, as well as adult coloring books. This whole section is decked out in purple. And shout out to Jared, who does the media call. If you could get DJ Screw original tapes or DJ Screw shirts, that purple stuff, that oil, that Texas tea, that stuff has a huge following and people will pay up for it. Another crazy Houston, Texas BOLO is the brand Algiers Gear, which was made by Paul Wall's friend. And Paul Wall used to rap with Chameleonaire. Get your mind correct, that's a BOLO too. But Algiers Gear, that stuff sells good. And shout out to my guy Full Court. He has a store over in Houston. So all of my Algiers Gears goes to him, and all of my Swisher House stuff goes to him. I sold him a really, really cool DJ Screw rap tee about 1 or 2 years ago. But the Algiers Gear is so hard to find, but if you do find it, please, from the bottom of my heart, try to rescue it. All right, so last video, I gave you some camouflage BOLOs. We named off the BOLOs, duck camo, things like that. I kept a couple camouflage BOLOs in my back pocket because I knew a part 2 would probably be coming. Number 1 is the NFL stuff, the Salute to Service, which they do for 1 month out of every single season. It's currently going on right now. And number 2, did you know that Patagonia has military issue gear? It's worth a ton of money. The collectors love it. And why it's so rare is because it was sold on military bases, but it was so expensive because it was Patagonia. So not a lot of people bought it. But if you can find Patagonia military gear, you're rich, rich. So while we're on like kind of obscure military gear, Arc'teryx makes military gear too, and that stuff is worth a fortune. But shout out to Drew for F as in Frank. Drew Heifetz, him and his brother Jesse are legends in the clothing game, legends in the vintage game. I'll put his channel right here. Drew has a deep dive on all things Patagonia, and he also has a deep dive on military Patagonia, so definitely check that out. He also shows you how to date Patagonia using the interior tag, which is very important. So check out Drew, good guy. And speaking of Drew, maybe about 7 years ago, I sold him a few hundred wrap tees, these white ones. And if you see those anywhere on the internet, they're very, very popular. Everybody has had them. I even sold one to Kanye West. All of those came from me originally. So Disney acquired the rights to Marvel not too long ago. And I'm going to break some of your hearts out there. If you can find vintage card in Marvel, obviously good. But the vintage Marvel comic cards, the holograms and stuff, Indiana Jones, the leather jacket. Now, obviously, some leather jackets can be good, but here's a couple under the radar ones. Vintage Averex and vintage Peli Peli. I've sold those for tons of money in the past. Do y'all do this in stores, especially thrift stores for the thrift gods? That's better. Umbrella bolo. And this is going to cross multiply on some of our other previous bolos. So you got to watch all the videos. You got to pay attention. Tartan plaid Ralph Lauren polo umbrellas. They got Chewbacca styling with a red cape. But did you know about Jawa, the vintage Star Wars toy with the vinyl cape? And while we're on Star Wars, I'll give you another one before we go to Star Wars Land. Vintage Star Wars Ewok Village. The most common vintage Star Wars toy that I've seen to come across is this guy, Jabba the Hutt. He's very easy to find. He's large. He's green. I found this one the most often. If you've been watching any of these videos, you know I love the frozen Coke. As crazy as this is, I have a frozen beverage bolo. ASAP Rocky once wore this vintage Slurpee shirt. Coke Christmas has a good following, but as a clothing seller, you usually find a lot of the vintage Coke shirts with the polar bears on them. Those do pretty well too. Here we have the SS Down the Hatch, one of Disney's most prestigious military warships. Speaking of military gear, vintage Champion reverse weave. The military ones, like for the Coast Guard, the Navy, the Army, humongous money. Speaking of reverse weaves, usually most reverse weaves are good. They do remake reverse weaves to make them look older, but study your champion tags. If you study your champion tags, you won't miss out. You'll know. There's some good reverse weaves out there. There's one that Jay-Z wore that goes for a premium. I'll put it right here. One of my favorite eras for NFL football jerseys was the 90s, and back in the 90s, Nike had the contract. One of the best football jerseys for anyone from that time, you guessed it. The Deion Sanders prime time Dallas Cowboys jersey. Right after Nike lost the contract, Puma had it for 1 year, and then it went to Reebok. They had the contract, and now Nike has it again. Brontosaurus Bolo, the vintage Ninja Turtle Bebop Bodacious Brontosaurus is a bolo. And if you remember from the first video, I gave you the two best bolos for Ninja Turtles. One was Scratch the cat, and one was Hotspot the dog. But they got Brontosaurus with the Santa hat. They got the Christmas tree. They did a great job with decorations. I wonder how they do it. They must do it in the middle of the night, and I wonder how fast they do it. Does it go from Halloween to Christmas all in one day? If you know, post it below, because I'm genuinely curious. And like the way operations and the way things work, like I enjoy the back end of that kind of stuff. So if you do know how they reset the whole place so quickly, I would love to know. And just to be clear, new color shirt, no pen, no pad, no cramming. Again, freestyled off the dome. Vintage Oasis shirt. Those two brothers could never get along, but they made a couple great songs and they have a couple great shirts. Backlot Express next to Indiana Jones, and they have PB&J Uncrustables. I sold a vintage PB&J Otter shirt for $400 before. Here's the Ewok Village that I referenced. This is what you're looking for in the playset form. Here's a vintage AT-AT. These AT-ATs also do well. And the thing with Star Wars, you don't even need all the pieces. Just parts and pieces still sell great if they're from the right time frame. Good brand for ice. Icebreaker. They have some good vintage Return of the Jedi shirts. My favorite jean jacket bolo is the vintage Guess Marty McFly. If you use the right keyword, you can sell that one for a great price. Some of these old character backpacks, like from the 80s and the 90s, can sell well. My personal favorite is Popples, and Popple stuffed animals also sell well. I've sold this vintage animal shirt a bunch of times. Got some boxing gloves up there inside of this Muppet ride. Once upon a time, I bought a bunch of boxing robes and gloves and shorts from a guy who bought a storage unit. And I ended up selling those for like hundreds of dollars each. And I probably had 50 or 60 pieces worth of merchandise. Movie tees is a great genre for vintage shirts. So I already gave you a bolo for the snowman. And if you missed it last time, you got to go back and watch it. But a good snow bolo is North Face Antarctica jackets. The actual jackets that were used in Antarctica sell for a tremendous amount of money because they have the most technology to keep you the warmest. Good item to pick up at flea market or garage sale is the BOLO motorcycle helmets, the new ones or the old ones. The old ones do especially well. Just one word of caution to them. If motorcycle helmets are ever in an accident or dropped, they're not supposed to be used anymore, so there is some liability with selling that kind of safety gear, but they do sell maybe for collectible purposes as well. We got the Star Wars Essential line, and these two colors are very in style right now, especially with Fear of God Essentials. And they also have the Essentials Nike tee, which is a good keyword for any vintage Nike shirt that has the small embroidered swoosh. All right, so you didn't want to help the people the first time. Do you have any BOLOs for us?
You there. What are you doing on that data pad?
Just trying to help the people.
Well, you should be where it's fine, but stick to approved frequencies.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Here we have a jet engine, and probably at least 4 or 5 times I have found whole collections of these 2-scale model airplanes. They're very professionally done. They sell great, but like the defunct or the out of business airlines, those ones sell the best. Oh snap, the Star Wars Jumpman. If you guys saw the video titled, I sold a $1,200 eBay item to Taylor Swift's boyfriend, Travis Kelce, there are tons of Jordan BOLOs, but I'll give you one right here. And if you want to learn vintage Jordan, you want to learn vintage Nike, on that video for Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift, I do a deep dive at the end and show all kinds of tags and give a bunch of information about Jordan brand. The Talking Yoda was a BOLO probably in about 2017. I made a bunch of money on that. But they have some very cool vintage Yoda t-shirts, which I'll show right here. I don't have any experience selling these, but tiki mugs, some of those can be worth a lot of money. We have some axes, but the best axe is, of course, Axl Rose. And vintage Guns N' Roses shirts are some of my favorites. Vintage Chewbacca BOLO. We all know Medusa is the logo for Versace, but Versace on eBay is way too risky for my blood. So I go for the alternative, Creme de Silk, which sells for a tremendous amount of money, and I found it many times. But did you know about this shirt that The Rock wore during a wrestling match and also in the movie Pain and Gain? So as I said in the last video, these are items that I've actually sold. Here is a screenshot of my Instagram account from many years ago selling the actual Rock shirt that he wore in the picture that I showed you. Still in Star Wars land, they've got all this luggage here and all these cubes. One of the coolest things that I remember from my childhood are these cubes toy boxes that came in like Link and Ninja Turtles. I had both of those, and both of those still sell to this day. Not quite Wally, but maybe the predecessor to Wally. I've sold a vintage Wally shirt for a couple bucks, and then we have all of these cars for the desert. This reminds me of the California Love video with Dr. Dre and Tupac and Roger Troutman. You cannot forget Roger Troutman, who was, like this guy, the predecessor to auto-tune in hip-hop and the godfather of what T-Pain did. But to get to the moral of the story, vintage hip-hop shirts, Tupac, Dr. Dre, that kind of stuff, of course, super, super in style. Exited Star Wars land into Toy Story land, but the BOLOs continue. Vintage Duncan yo-yos. All right, this one is true. I'm not trolling. Once upon a time, I sold an alien in a jar on eBay. An alien in a jar. And word of caution, I received the most ridiculous questions from customers concerning the alien in the jar. They were all in on alien in the jar. But alien in a jar does sell, as ridiculous as that is. While we're talking about aliens, vintage Alien and Predator shirts sell great too. The Franklin Mint Collector's Edition of Scrabble sells great. Also, just replacement Scrabble tiles, those sell good too. Slinky Dog BOLO, Harmont, and Blaine. Great brand, sells for a lot of money. Little Bo Peep BOLO. Any kind of Sherpa line jacket, obviously the Levi's ones do great, but even like an Abercrombie & Fitch Sherpa line jacket will do well also. While we're on those type of jackets, one of my favorites is the Lee Storm Rider jacket. That's not Sherpa, but that's lined. That one does great too. And while we're on Levi's jackets, I literally sold a Levi's jacket while we're here for $140. It was a Levi's jean jacket with a big E, listed it yesterday. In front of Slinky Dog is very Field of Dreams-esque. And there is an Affliction shirt. The model name of it is Field of Dreams, and Affliction is coming back in a big way. That stuff is selling fast. That stuff is selling great. But while we're on movie shirts, we're gonna tie both of them together. Farming shirt and a movie shirt. White Men Can't Jump. The shirt that they wore in that movie is an RT by Bob Wade. A lot of times people get caught slipping on that shirt, but that shirt is worth good money. Jesse wearing the Double D Ranch pants. Those sell well. Also, anything from the Professional Bull Riders Association, like the Wrangler shirts, the more patches, the better. Also, chaps, leather chaps for motorcycles, those sell great. All right, guys, really to show you how we're rolling. I filmed that last video like right there, and I turn around and somebody has left their New Era New York Yankees hat right here, unattended. That right there, even though it's a kid's hat, that's a $12 or a $15 bill. But I'm not gonna take it, but I'm just saying, there's money everywhere, guys. Woody with the hat tip, so polite. Is that a Stetson? Vintage thermoses, the metal ones, or any of the ones from the 80s and the 90s. And if you got the lunchbox too, that's a bonus. The star from Super Mario 64. If you list that for the right price, it will sell immediately. So here's an old animator's desk. They have some pens, Mont Blanc pens. Those sell good. I don't have any experience with them, but they do sell. There are some fakes, so be careful. A couple famous Mouseketeers, Justin Timberlake, Britney Spears, Christina Aguilera. We got Robotic, Honest Abe. And the iRobot shirt from Will Smith movie is a good one, but I also sold a very cool birdhouse shirt with a robot on it once upon a time. And that's another skateboarding brand. And if you remember right in the beginning, I gave you a couple good skateboard brands. So on the first BOLO video, somebody tried to stump me and they asked about 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. They don't have that ride anymore here in Florida, and they asked for a submarine BOLO. What would I do if I saw a submarine? Do I have a submarine BOLO? And absolutely I do. Lego Beatles Yellow Submarine. That set sells great. Like my parenting days of like a small child are done, so I don't know like the newest BOLOs, but Molly from the Big Comfy Couch, that is a plush BOLO. So Disney owns ABC, which is where Shark Tank is. We all know Damon John owns FUBU. The FUBU jerseys do great. FUBU is coming back, but did you guys know that Damon John also owns Coogee? The Coogee sweaters, always great, especially the one worn by Notorious B.I.G. and my personal favorite, the casino one. In the last video, I gave you some robe BOLOs. You thought I was done? No. UGG robes and the brand Barefoot Dreams. In the original video, we talked about panel hats, which do way better than regular baseball hats. But these nylon panel hats do even better than regular panel hats. And if you want to go one more step further, the long bill panel hats. Sold a Robert Graham stained glass pattern shirt. And Robert Graham back in the day used to be good, but the best ones for Robert Graham that are even still good to this day are the limited edition ones. So you guys remember I did the caricature BOLO, and you remember I also found a $250 caricature shirt at the flea market in the last video. Super video, vintage Grateful Dead liquid blue shirt. Any of the Rain Spooner shirts with the classic car designs, those do well. And another Rain Spooner BOLO is the line Joe Kalikiakawa. I'm not sure how to say it exactly, but I'll show the tag and give a BOLO. And since they do have all the Christmas designs here, any Tommy Bahama shirt with a Santa or a Christmas design goes for a great premium. I know you guys are thinking, how can you be at the same park and give more BOLOs? Last time I was here, if you remember, we saw Pretzel Palooza and I gave you the Lollapalooza BOLO, but I have a guitar BOLO for you. It's not the Guitar Hero guitars, it is the Guitar Hero dongles. And you can usually pick those up cheap because nobody ever knows what they are. And I don't like the Guitar Hero guitars, they're too big and bulky, too hard to ship. I prefer the dongles. Last time we were here, I gave you 2 Monster Disney Cars BOLOs. I'm gonna repeat them because one is so good, it's worth repeating. I'm gonna repeat the second one because I think I went too fast and I wasn't clear enough on that one. And of course, I have other Disney car BOLOs for you. Disney Cars on VHS is an absolute BOLO. It is the last Disney movie on VHS. It was a short production run before they switched to DVD. The one that I was unclear on was Disney Car plane toys. The planes from the Disney Cars movie sell great. Here's the new Disney Car BOLO. The Disney Cars Mac car hauler. That one sells great. And while we're over here, we have the number 51. Number 51, the greatest number 51 of all time, Ichiro Suzuki, the only baseball player to wear his first name on the back of the jersey. A couple of baseball jersey bolos you need to look for: Majestic, Nike, and even the Coliseum baseball jerseys sell well. You want more cars, bolos? Don't worry, I got you. Vintage homies, anything lowrider culture like Lowrider magazine, and also the best lowrider clothing line, Rolling Hard, sells exceptionally well. I'll give you a orange bolo, but only for Miamians. Atomico, Miami legend, and also, as we know, the Miami Hurricanes used to play at the Orange Bowl, and this is my favorite Miami Hurricane shirt, and they also have the Miami Heat one too. Muscle Beats bolo, vintage World Gym shirts. They don't sell for a fortune, but every single one that I listed sold, and sold fast. And just so you guys know, I just be playing with y'all. I started the video with a world map bolo. We're leaving Hollywood Studios with another world map bolo. Actually, I'll give you two. Vintage globes with the terrain on them, like raised mountains, and also ones that have countries that no longer exist. Those do good, of course, but I got a better one for you. Where in the world map jacket that Kurt Cobain wore. And if you remember, I gave you a lot of Kurt Cobain bolos at Disney World last time. Here we are at Epcot, and the bolos don't stop. I'm gonna come in hard right now. Last time we saw this, we did golf brands, because yes, it looks like a golf ball. One of the best golf brands out is G4. G4 was started by Massimo Giulianelli, and if that name sounds familiar, he got caught in the college admission scandal with his wife, who was on Full House. So the college admission scandal was at USC. Bronny James goes to USC. He is the son of LeBron James, and he will be one of the first players in the NIL era that is going to benefit from their name on the back of the jersey. Name, image, and likeness, because college players can now get paid. So G4 was sold to Peter Millar. Peter Millar has some great items: Summer Comfort, Wicking, Seaside Wash. When you think of Seaside Wash, you think of an island. And I have some good Gulf Island embroideries to keep a lookout for. Sea Island and Fisher Island. I'm on fire. So Massimo was an early brand competing with Stussy, and Stussy is the stuff that you want. Vintage Massimo does good. From the 80s and 90s does good. The Massimo now, present day, at Target and things like that, not ideal. But vintage Stussy is great. The stuff with the crown, the skater stuff, the all-over print is great. Stussy was started by James Jebbia, who went on to start Supreme. Supreme was bought by VF Corp, who now owns a lot of brands like North Face. So speaking of Supreme, for a long time, maybe 7 to 10 years, Supreme's designers have bought from me frequently on eBay to buy items and then use them for inspiration for their own Supreme designs. And I even sold an item to James Jebbia, the owner of Supreme. It was a color block vintage polo jacket for 400 bucks. We glanced over this one last time, Astro World, but we got Cactus Jack. Anything Travis Scott, highly desirable. Anything he wears turns highly desirable overnight. One of the most sought after things that Travis Scott has wore has been the Nike Center Swoosh hoodie. Turned from about a $20 to a $30 hoodie into a $200 to a $300 hoodie overnight. So we got the whole crew out here, everybody except for Bruce. And just like Alien in a jar sells, Shark in a jar sells. We don't have these kind of ducks at my house. They must bust them in. But you can see they got the web toes and the Vibram 5 fingers and those web toe shoes. Those shoes still sell. In my attempt to bring you the best bolo list ever, Garbage Pail Kids cards sell. They have some cool Where's Waldo shirts. Guardians of the Galaxy bolo, Raekwon purple tape. That's a classic. A lot of the old 90s hip hop does very good. DJ Screw cassettes. The first Bone Thugs and Harmony cassette, Faces of Death. Anything 90s hip hop cassette, especially if you can find it brand new. Over here in Canada, and what is Canada known for? The Canada Goose. Two good brands of goose down jackets. Triple Fat Goose and Canada Goose. However, both of those brands, they do make fake, so you do have to make sure that the ones that you're listing are legit, and you can usually tell by sloppy stitching on the shoulder patches. For you guys who have been paying attention to my videos, what kind of plaid is this? Woolrich is best known for it. I might get demonetized for this one, but I gotta do it for the people. I gotta give you the BOLOs, the brand Moose Knuckle. So if you've ever been to any of the Disney parks with or without kids, you know that there is a time of day where the kids have simply had enough. And we have reached that time. And since I have BOLOs on top of BOLOs, I have a BOLO for that time. The brand Loudmouth. Loudmouth golf sells great. The more flamboyant, the more colorful, the more money you're going to get. Another good golf BOLO I'll throw in is Bad Birdie. Up and coming brand, looks like it sells great. So they have the Food and Wine Festival going on right now at Epcot, and we're at Ireland. We got the pub right there. One of the very first epic snapback hats that I got was a vintage Notre Dame The Game big logo hat. And if you know me, I love snapback hats. I love selling hats. I have a deep dive in the group all about vintage hats. And the three styles of snapback hats that you want to look for the game are big logo, circle, and bar. And in the heyday of big logos, they used to go for $3, $4, $5, all the way up to thousands of dollars. They've cooled off a little bit, but they are starting to trend back up as well. Here we are in England, and they're celebrating golf. Anything Ryder Cup or the Masters usually does pretty well, especially if you can combine it with a very good golf brand. If you haven't seen the very first episode of the Reseller Greatness podcast, I interviewed Hanley, who is a used car parts seller from Scotland, and she's absolutely crushing it, so be sure to check it out. This one is a little bit of a selfish BOLO. In 1996, the Florida Panthers went all the way to the Stanley Cup Finals as a new team. During their run, one of the players hit a rat in the locker room with their hockey stick, and that game had a great game. So it became kind of a thing where every single time that they scored a goal, they would throw rats onto the ice. So vintage 1996, vintage Florida Panther stuff sells great. And I know we talked about big logo hats, but the Florida Panthers have the most epic stadium giveaway ever. It is a vintage stadium giveaway Florida Panthers big logo hat. The brand is Florida Panthers, and I found this hat probably 100 times. I have another rat BOLO for you. Vintage Rat Fink shirts. If you do see them, you have to pick them up. Rat Fink was a character made by the artist Ed Roth and is huge in the hot rod and motorcycle community. Speaking of motorcycle, you have the motorcycle jackets that have the padding in them. Alpine Stars is good. Any of the Kawasaki ones are good. As long as it has all the padding in it, those do very well. Other motorcycle jacket brands, Schott does some very nice leather jackets. Vanson does some very nice leather jackets. My favorite Vanson jacket is the one with the skeleton logo on it. And there is a great skeleton logo jacket. And if you've been reselling for 15 years or so, the very first BOLO in streetwear was the LRG, Lifted Research Group, skeleton hoodie jacket. That was sold out everywhere and commanded a huge premium. It still does sell to this day. While we are on Lifted Research Group, a lot of you guys know how I got my start on eBay. The Lifted Research Group limited edition T-Mobile Sidekick, those do command a premium. They also have other limited edition T-Mobile Sidekicks that they did release during that time. All of those do command a premium, especially the pink one. And any T-Mobile Sidekick from back in the day does sell well, even for parts or not working, because most people use them for accessories for their outfit. So very Y2K, very in style. All of that stuff, be on the lookout for. There goes the brother Kelsey of Travis Kelsey, who we referred to earlier, who I sold a sweater to. I have a Philadelphia Eagles BOLO. The jacket that Princess Diana wore goes for a premium. I have a very unassuming Nike BOLO for you. The Nike LeBron James Chamber of Fear shirt sells for a lot of money. And I guarantee you that one sells on eBay every single day for $10 or $15 for people who have no idea what it is. So if you want to snipe, add that one to your snipe list. And I have another one for the snipe list. Another very unassuming Nike shirt. And we're going to tie this into Hollywood Studios, where we were at the very first park. The Nike LeBron James Muppet shirt sells for a premium. That was on an ad campaign for Nike for LeBron James and Kobe Bryant a few years back. But I guarantee you that one too. Also, people don't know, and they list that for 15 or 20 bucks. You can come in and scoop it up, list it for the right price, and make the right money. Here we are in Japan, and if you haven't noticed on this video, I'm trying to go a little bit slower and give a little bit more information per BOLO, so that way it can help guide you on the research, because last time was absolutely rapid fire hose of information, and a couple of people messaged me and said that they couldn't even finish the video because it was so much information and overwhelming. So trying to go a little bit of a slower pace, trying to talk a little more, and trying to give you a little bit more information. So in Japan, this one you have to do because there's so many. What I did to learn all the good video games was I went to eBay and searched NES, Nintendo, high to low. I went to eBay, Sega, high to low, N64, high to low. And I memorized all the grails, all the crazy rare games. And then at least I knew that. I don't need to know Duck Hunt. I don't need to know Mario, but I need to know stadium games. And I need to know all the grails for all the platforms. That way, if I do see them, I'm not the fool that passed them up, and that's an easy exercise that you guys could do. If you remember at Hollywood Studios, I talked about the airplane models. Those are the ones that I'm talking about right there. You can get brand new sealed Brother label makers. The older ones that they don't make anymore are worth huge money, especially on Amazon. I don't think I mentioned this in the other video, but vintage anime shirts, those go absolutely crazy if you get the right ones. Even the wrong ones go crazy. You can find vintage Tamagotchi. And we can't leave Japan without talking about Hello Kitty. Anything older Hello Kitty does great. The vintage stuff, of course. In the 90s, Charles Barkley had a Nike campaign with Godzilla for his shoes. The vintage Nike Charles Barkley Godzilla shirts are pretty cool. All right, so I'm gonna give you a couple Zelda and GameCube BOLOs. And again, it's very important that we study this. The Zelda Collector's Edition, which has Legend of Zelda, Zelda 2, The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, and Majora's Mask, is an absolute BOLO. While we're on GameCube, if you can get the Nintendo GameCube Game Boy disc, if you just get the disc is worth a tremendous amount of money. If you get the bottom plate, that one also sells very well. While we're also on GameCube, and I'm telling you, the knowledge goes deep, it's not just clothing. GameCube, the Wavebird controllers, the wireless ones, those ones sell great. But even if you don't have the Wavebird controller, the actual connector still sells awesome. As we said last time, at America, in America. And it's going to be the same line. Polo, Ralph Lauren, whatever you want to say. But this one, the Polo USA line, sells great, sells for a premium, especially the hats. Even the fitted Polo USA hats do well. Vintage Jackass shirts, and also vintage Bam Margera, and then also vintage CKY. Ralph Lauren surface level, slow sell through, 330,000 items, sells through roughly 20%. The Ralph Lauren Big Pony Spain shirt has over a 100% sell through. That's why keywords and nuance matters. Some Steiff Hedgehogs, and we already went over Steiff brand last time, but vintage Sonic the Hedgehog shirts. Whale Bolo, the Hartford Whalers. They are a defunct hockey team. They've been relocated, but they have a huge following, and that kind of stuff goes for great money. I gave you guys a good German Bolo last time we were here in the other video, so if you didn't catch that, go back and watch it. But here's a couple of my favorite Adidas pieces. I told you guys I would have some more skateboard Bolos for you. Vintage Alien Workshop sells great, along with the skateboard brand Hookups. Those shirts do tremendously well. In the first video, I talked about minor league baseball hats. The jerseys sell well too. I have two Alien minor league baseball teams for you. The Roswell Invaders and the Las Vegas 51ers. The last time we saw one of these signs was at Magic Kingdom, and I told you respect all wildlife, and the sportsman stuff for Ralph Lauren was great. But I have another Buck Bolo for you, the brand Buck Mason. So I gave you guys a penny Bolo last time, but I'll give you another penny Bolo since we just talked about the LeBron James and the Kobe Nike shirts. The vintage Nike from the 90s Anthony Hardaway, Penny Hardaway shirts sell great. I have one in my store listed right now. It will sell. I've sold it plenty of times, and I've sold similar Penny Hardaway shirts. But the foam posits from Penny Hardaway, those sell great. Some sell for an extreme amount of money, but there are fakes of those, so you do have to be careful. What I used to do, since there was so many fakes, I used to only sell the baby posits, the little ones in the 1C, 2C, 3C. Those ones sell great, and there's very little risk to those compared to the one with the weather map on it, which is highly counterfeited. But my favorite vintage Nike shirt of that era that has a sports figure on it is the Deion Sanders one. And I've sold that one a few times too. Great shirt. What's going on, everybody? It's a new day. Today we're going to Disney and Animal Kingdom. The BOLOs will not stop. However, the BOLOs were on hiatus yesterday. I was at Epcot and we were at the America portion where we left off, and I was eating a cheeseburger and I hear, "Is that you, Tech?" And I turn around and it's Matt from the group. Matt from the group was at Disney World the same time I was at Disney World. He was visiting from Chicago, so I hung out with him for the rest of the night. Cool dude, very cool dude. His business is doing great. It was great to talk with him, but the BOLOs were on hiatus yesterday, so I got to go back and finish Epcot one of these days, but you got enough from over there, and you're going to have enough in this video. But today we are at Disney World, all decked out in Christmas. It looks awesome, but the BOLO Bonanza officially continues right now. Let's check it out. BOLO for tactical kilts. So I guess while we are here, I will give you a little bit of sights of the decorations that they do have for those folks that are in other states and can't make it down. They've done a really nice job. So here's a champion BOLO for you. Up there we have the Athletic Club. The New York Athletic Club stuff by Champion on the reverse weave sells great. I've sold a vintage New York Athletic Club sweater for either $400 or $500 a couple years back. Last time we were at Casey's, I gave you a bunch of baseball BOLOs, but I got another one. Game used baseball bats, and you would think these are hard to find, but they're not. As long as you know what to look for, you can find them. They'll have the player name and the team name on them, and they're going to be the correct weight and size. They're going to be pretty heavy, usually between 30 and 34, 36 inches, and then somewhere in the 30-ounce range. And they will always have on the bottom knob the model number and also the weight and size. They're not going to be like the Walmart ones that are cheap, flimsy, light with a number like 8 on the bottom. So I'll put a couple examples here. I have found a ton of them, and they always sell great. I think the last good one that I found was a Jose Canseco that I sold for $500, and I also sold a Manny Ramirez for $500 as well. Sometimes you find the BOLOs, sometimes the BOLOs find you. We're in the Hall of Presidents. This is a vintage starter satin jacket. The white variants are usually the most sought after because they're the rarest colorway, so those ones sell for a premium. But any starter satin jacket is going to be money. Another good brand to look out for is Chalkline satin jackets. Those sell well too. And another good item to keep an eye out for is the Chalkline Fanimation jackets. Those are awesome. The colorway and the graphics on them are great. The best putter brand to be on the lookout for, and you don't even have to know about golf, is Scotty Cameron. Just look on the club head for Scotty Cameron, and if it is one, it's worth picking up. In addition to the reverse weaves that we talked about a couple times, we covered the military ones, which are great, but also any sort of Ivy League reverse weave from Champion goes for a premium as well. BOLO for BOLOs. These BOLO ties, they sell great if you can pick them up, if they have the turquoise. Here's one for like class rings. A lot of people think class rings are like just made of metal, but sometimes they're actually made of silver and gold, and you can pick them up and just sell them for scrap. So check out class rings. Over here in Frontierland, gold miners welcome. And if you guys are out there on the West Coast in California, they have people that go in what's called bandos, abandoned mine, abandoned city, abandoned houses. And they're pulling out Levi's jeans that are worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, 80,000, 50,000 bucks. So if you are on the West Coast, just remember you have over 100 years of Levi's available. You have to specialize and know your Levi's. And inside of the group, we have Andy, who is an absolute expert on jeans. He went over how to date Levi's, how to read the tags, super important information. And if you're on the West Coast especially, study up on your Levi's. Bear BOLO, Sorel hiking boots. So here's one, Griswold cast iron pans, and they usually have a model number on them. Some of them are worth a lot of money, some of them are worth no money. And here's a tip, if you find them, do not clean them. The buyer wants them seasoned. Also the cornbread trays, those usually go for pretty good money too. And this is outside my wheelhouse, but I have seen people have good luck selling the lanterns. But again, that's not for me. So we talked about the Pendleton and the Hudson blankets, but if you can find the blanket line jackets from Polo and other brands, any sort of jacket with a blanket liner is gonna sell for a premium. Keeping up with the Miner theme, we got the San Francisco 49ers football team, and they have a lot of great stuff. In the 90s, they were a dynasty, and they had a lot of stuff produced. I've had the Logo Athletic Shark Tooth hat. The white dome is more common. The black dome, for any shark tooth hat, the black dome is where you want to be. And they also have double shark tooth, which those ones are super rare and sell for thousands of dollars. In addition to the shark tooth hat, they also have the splash hat. Again, white dome is more common. Black dome is way more rare. Cannon for Cannondale. Some cycling jerseys can do good. The Nike Livestrong one is pretty common. The Nike Post Office one is also pretty common. Those sell well. The Giordana, those ones sell okay, but there are fakes of cycling jerseys, so you do have to be very careful. There's some very cool cycling jerseys that were collaborations with like Pink Floyd. Those ones do good too. Also for cycling, the shorts with the padding does well, and also the singlets, those do well too. I got more McDonald's bolos for you, and it's not Beanie Babies this time. That was a joke. The vintage McDonald's ashtrays sell well, and also the McDonald's stuff from the 90s. Even McDonald's uniform hats sell well. I also always sell a very cool 90s Wendy's uniform hat. Sells every single time. All right, Tom Sawyerland was definitely built in a different time. You could sit up here and pick people off and everything. So speaking of stuff from a different time, the old Tennessee Volunteers logo with the musket, and also the Ole Miss Running Rebels logo. A couple skull bolos for you. Castle Gray Skull. Even if you get it in parts or pieces, it's still worth picking up, still sells. But if you can get it complete, absolute dynamite of a pickup. Another He-Man bolo is the Wonder Bread He-Man. Sells for a ton of money. You have to know what it is if you're out there flea market or garage sale. A couple more underground bolos. Trolls, and then also Stone Protectors. Those are pretty cool. But I have a real skull bolo for you. A couple of weeks ago, someone actually found a human skull at Goodwill. Would you pick it up? No experience in this, but we do have an antiques and collectibles call in the Facebook group. Vintage oil cans are collectible and people do pay up for them. Here we have a bee, and I got some bee bolos, but I also have a tugboat bolo, so hold on. So for bees, you have Wu-Tang Killer Bees. Any sort of Wu-Tang wrap tee is humongous money, especially the cream wrap tee. And also the Wu Wear is great money. And also here is a tub top. Wait, back to the bees. We have Kith, who did a collaboration with Cheerios. And we also have the NASCAR racing jackets with Cheerios on them. The NASCAR racing jackets do well. All right, boat bolo. One time at the flea market and back in my toy days, and I did a little bit with toys, I was here and there, I did a little bit with toys. Tubtown. I picked up a brand new sealed Tubtown playset that I initially was gonna pass on. And I listed it for what I thought was a ridiculous price of $500, and it sold overnight by the morning time. So in addition to Tubtown, Playmobil, the old toys sell good, especially if you can lot them up in a playset. And I practiced this the other day by finding a bunch of Playmobil in the trash, and I lotted it up and it sold for $102.50. So I had to go a little bit fast on the last one. I apologize. My brain was moving 100 miles an hour, and the boat was going to leave me on Tom Sawyer Island. So I had to spit it out and then get out. But I never been on Tom Sawyer Island before. I didn't even know it was there. That was awesome. 10 out of 10. If you ever come here, definitely go to Tom Sawyer Island. The caves were awesome. This lady has Doc Martens with the fur, and any sort of Doc Marten that's out of the ordinary with roses on them, any kind of pattern or any kind of, major amount of eyelets on it. Those are the ones that you're looking for, in addition to the ones made in England. All right, I'm going to put you guys on free game right now. Get a gancho. Gancho in Spanish means hook. The top of a hanger has a gancho. It has a hook. Get you a gancho, knock on doors, and clean palm trees. Some palm trees are self-cleaning. Some palm trees are not. So you have like queen palms. They are not self-cleaning. They need to be trimmed to look nice. You have Bismarcks that are not self-cleaning. They have the seed pods that weigh 100 pounds. If they land on a kid, the kid is dead. So go out there, knock on doors, and you can charge $100, $200 to clean some of these overgrown palm trees that become a nuisance. They wreck the yard by making a mess. They are a hazard to cars parked underneath. You can also trim coconuts. And I have a guy who buys my coconuts for $1, who sells them at the swap shop for $2. And every single coconut that I take off, I sell to that guy, so I don't have to pay to dispose it. Go out and get a gancho and get on a gancho route. You can make a ton of money just doing that. Here's an example of a palm tree that needs to be trimmed. You see how these have just been hacked off? Those have been hacked off by a gancho. These ones and these ones, all of these need to be cleaned up. All of these need to be trimmed. This right here, you can trim this one right here from the ground and charge 25 to 35 bucks all day long. Furthermore, on the gancho route, you don't need any special equipment aside from the pole. You don't even need a truck to dispose of the debris. Leave the debris on the customer's curb. The trash people will pick it up. It is a very low barrier to entry business that you can make hundreds of dollars. I believe you can make $1,000 a day on the gancho route if you really hit it hard, hit doors, and do the right jobs. Billiard balls sell good. And speaking of billiard balls, 8-ball for Pogs. Pogs still sell. Yes, I've sold Pogs before. BOLO Winnie the Pooh, the Boston Bruins Winnie the Pooh hockey jersey. Huge money. All right, I need to take a poll. What kind of people follow this channel? Are you make your own matching t-shirt family? Or do you just show up and go? And for the dudes out there, don't lie to me. Did your wife put you in a shirt you didn't want to wear? Keep it real. Post below. Here we are at Animal Kingdom. We made it to the last stop. And if you're still rocking with me and you watched the entire first BOLO video, post it below. I want to see who has watched everything and who has learned the most. So they do got the tree here. I'll show you a little bit of B-roll of that. But while we're here, we're at Animal Kingdom. And we started last time right here with the dragon. And I got more dragon BOLOs. I keep them in my pocket for a later day. I don't give them all to you. The Dragonfly t-shirts, the button-up one that have like the anime designs on the front, they're made of polyester. Those ones sell great. And even the ones that are similar to that are not Dragonfly brand, even though they're unbranded, not a good brand, you can use good keywords and those ones will sell. While we're here in front of the dragon, vintage Dragon Ball Z shirts, those go crazy. So I already gave you some goose BOLOs at Epcot, but like I said, I keep some for a rainy day. These are barnacle gooses, gooses. Here is another goose BOLO, golden goose, the shoes. You have to be careful. They do have some fakes, but it is a very good brand and it's very expensive. Tree of Life, and this logo looks like the Timberland logo if the Timberland logo ever grew leaves. And the rapper Cameron made Timberlands come back in a big way in the early 2000s with this all pink fit, the Pink Panther fit. And he also had the pink range. Anyways, some colorways of Timberland sell for good money, but also anything Dipset or Diplomats, the rap tees, those do well. Otter Grotto. And of course, the most famous grotto is the Playboy Grotto. And there's some very good vintage Playboy shirts. Vintage Playboy hats do good. But like the vintage button-up Playboy shirts, those do really good. Last time we were here, I gave you some BMX BOLOs, but today we're going to concentrate on this part of the bicycle for mountain bikes, rock shocks. I found them at flea markets, garage sales, even at thrift stores before. Keep an eye out. So the Tree of Life is on Discovery Island, and I've already given you some hockey BOLOs today. We have the Hartford Whalers, the Winnie the Pooh Boston Bruins jerseys, but the holy grail of New York Islanders jerseys is the Gordon Fisherman jersey. Rafiki's Planet Watch, I mean, he's doing a great job. You got to give him credit, but he don't have nothing on Captain Planet. And Captain Planet is from the right era and time where pretty much everything with that kind of branding is going to sell well. The brand Kipling, that's our guy right there. Vintage mosquito head shirts are like one of the most sought after things in the vintage community. I've had a bunch of them. The first one I ever got was a Marilyn Monroe that I sold for $500. And then I had the Bob Marley one. I had a Martin Luther King one that I sold for over $1,000. I've had several, probably like 10 of them. They're very hard to find, very rare. But when you do find those are going to sell for huge money. For the Tommy Bahama shirts, the better the design, the more money you're going to make. If it has the embroidery on the back, of course, those are great. But if it has bamboo on it or something, it's way better than just like the one color beige. But only one time did I find a Tommy Bahama hand-painted Hawaiian shirt. I've never seen another one, and I've never even seen any other resellers who have ever found one. So those must be extremely rare. They have some baby gorillas over here now, and some of my personal favorite vintage shirts are the ones from Donkey Kong. My personal favorite BOLO, the one that I'm most proud of the last video of all 500 BOLOs, was the Smashing Pumpkin, Melancholy and the Infinite Sadness BOLO inside of the tiger exhibit. So this is part of where the tiger lives. But if you look close, we have the Smashed Pumpkin, Melancholy and the Infinite Sadness. However, we came a little bit late to Animal Kingdom today because we want to see the tree light up tonight. So there are 0 tiger BOLOs for today. But I do have a 0 Smashing Pumpkin tiger BOLO for you. The lead singer of Smashing Pumpkins, his name is Billy Corgan, and he used to wear a shirt with 0 on the front and it has a Smashing Pumpkin graphic on the sleeve. That shirt is worth a lot of money. And Billy Corgan used to wear that shirt because he was very shy and he didn't like to perform. But when he put on the Zero shirt, he turned into an alter ego superhero. And that's the story behind the Zero shirt and Zero Tiger Bolos today and Smashing Pumpkins. The reason why we came late to Animal Kingdom is Animal Kingdom usually closes around 5 or 6 o'clock. But last weekend, the time changed, so it gets dark earlier. And Animal Kingdom is open till 8 o'clock tonight. So it's going to be open in the dark time. And Avatar is going to be all lit up and the Tree of Life. And we've never seen that before, so it should be pretty cool. Back on my scrap route days, I found a vintage Apple II computer in someone's trash. And I sold it on eBay for a couple $100 same day that I listed it. So last time we were here, I gave you a bunch of mountain bolos, but I got one more for you. And this is an epic image, so may as well share it. The brand Mountain Hardware, that one sells good. The bags, the clothing, the jackets. Some of the right stuff sells for the right price. Got some nice backpack brands over here by Everett. These JanSport ones, if you can find the vintage, the ones with the leather bottom made in the USA, those go for a premium. But also the yellow waterproof North Face bags. So here we are in Avatar Land to wrap it up. We just saw the light show on the tree and that was pretty amazing. But Avatar Land in nighttime is actually very, very cool. But to everybody who has stayed this far, I appreciate it. Like, subscribe, share it with another reseller, spread the word. And if you watched the first one and the entire second one, you are the MVP. Post it below. I want to give you a special thank you personally. I respond to every single comment that people leave. So if you want to learn about reselling, I have a post below to a Facebook group and a Patreon, Reseller Greatness Podcast. And we have over 30 different calls every single week live, and everything is recorded with experts in every single niche to teach you and show you how to resell the right way, whether it's side income, you're full-time, or you're building a big business. We got them all. So again, I appreciate everybody for hanging out. Check the next video next week. And as always, be great.